I'm Grace at Coherent, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through how Coherent Spark can connect to third-party data providers or external APIs using XConnector. XConnector is a feature designed to let your Spark services interact with external APIs, allowing real-time data exchange between your models and a third-party source. With Coherent, we help you streamline underwriting, pricing, and other workflows by converting Excel-based logic, your models, into APIs. But in some scenarios, you might need to access external data as part of your calculations or decision making. And that is where XConnector comes in. And it's especially useful in scenarios where your Spark service depends on the result of an external data source. So this can be, a third-party API like some property insights from a property intelligence platform, or risk scores or credit scores from external models. And it'll use that same XCall function that you use to connect Spark services together, so it can seamlessly fit into your workflow. So for today, the example here is a commercial property workflow that simulates calling out to a third-party property intelligence platform using XConnector to bring in property data into the rater for premium calculation. So on the left, we have a core system. From there, we pass key inputs like account name, policy effective date, property location level details like addresses into our property rater, which is built in Excel and running on Coherent Spark. And then as part of this rating workflow, we also want to bring in additional data from an external property data provider. And to make that connection, we've uploaded a Spark XConnector service, which this would then enable me to use the XCall function from within Excel. So we'll use the XCall to send the property address to the external API through this XConnector. So XConnector securely passes that address to the external API, this property intelligence platform, and in return, we'll send back those key data points needed, like earthquake risk, square footage, so on. And then those values would be returned right back into this Excel model in real time, and then used in the premium calculation, which would then make its way back to the core system. So XConnector essentially acts as a bridge between Spark and the external service. So let's go ahead and jump into Excel and see how this looks in action. The workbook that I'm showing is a commercial property rater. So we have fields that would come from a core system, our X inputs, like account level information, so like account name, effective date, account history. And then we also have some location-specific inputs here in this SOV tab. So we have these addresses, we have some exposure values, some year built type information. And so on the right here, let me minimize this. And on the right here, we want to pull in some additional property-related data from the external API in real time using XConnector. So once we pass in the addresses in the XCall to this XConnector service, it'll call that external API, it'll retrieve that enriched data, and then send that back to populate this rater. And then at the bottom here are all the premiums by location, and that will update in real time based on those retrieved values for each location. So if I go ahead and I'm going to add in a new address here, I'm just going to use the same information here. You'll see that the data will refresh instantly. So here are the new values for that location address that I just added from the external API. We were able to retrieve it in real time. And then the calculated premiums also updates accordingly. And that's all thanks to that logic built into the rater, powered by Spark, and then enriched through the XConnector. Now, how might you get your external API into Spark as a service? The first step is to implement it as a remote service, so using something like Azure Functions or AWS Lambda, and then deploying it via an endpoint. And then from there, all you need to do is upload a mapping file to Spark to create the XConnector service that essentially tells Spark what inputs and outputs to expect, as well as the endpoint URL to hit. But once that mapping file is uploaded, your API, that external API, is now accessible via XCall from any Excel model running on Spark. So overall, this setup allows you to bring in real-time data from a third-party provider directly into your Excel models without ever leaving Excel. And if you're interested in seeing how this could work for you on your own data sources, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching.